So what is the Matariki network? It's basically an international network of universities established in 2010, and the universities work together on a range of different projects, a whole variety of different things which involve all different stakeholders from across the institution, so staff and students. It's purposefully very small. So we did originally there were 7 founding members, and then it's fluctuated slightly over the last few years. But all the universities are very kind of like-minded in their ethos, research intensive and outward looking institutions. And it's often remarked by colleagues within the network, right from the top sort of senior levels downwards, that it's a very unique network in a lot of different ways. But the fact that it's small means that it's a trusted network of critical friends, really, is how you could describe it. And we strive to create opportunities for international cooperation at all different levels within our institutions. So we have a very broad remit, and we like to try and reach as many people as possible. This is a visual representation of where our current members are situated in the world. You'll see that we've not quite reached all corners of the globe just yet, but we are currently in discussion with the executive board around approaching potential new members to join the network over the coming months. So watch this space. There may be some more news to share in that regard in the not too distant future. So we undertake a wide variety of activities, as I mentioned, within the network, but they all fall within one of 3 broad strands: research, education, or benchmarking, sharing best practice. And I guess that doesn't really come as a surprise, being, education institutions. But this, obviously being for professional services staff to interact and collaborate with each other, really comes under that 3rd strand there of benchmarking and sharing best practice. And we like to make sure that all activities that we undertake fits neatly under one, or perhaps straddles over a couple of the strands within the network. These are our short to mid-term priorities. I'm not going to go through them all in detail. You can read about them at your leisure. There's things about this on the website as well. But I just thought it might help to guide you and give you a bit of an idea of the sorts of priorities that we are looking for within these projects, because we like to make sure that, again, that all of our activities fit with some of these priorities at least. I'd say maybe number 4, intensifying engagement, is obviously quite relevant here, but again, depending on what your interest is for a project, I'm sure you'll touch on at least 1 or 2 of the others as well. So a few examples of collaboration within the network, again, just to give you a flavour of the breadth of things that we undertake. So it's not just focused in one area. We try to reach a lot of members of our community. The 2 bullet points in bold there: professional service staff visits, training opportunities, and the Matariki engagement grant for professional services staff. They're obviously the 2 most relevant ones here. But again, I thought it would be good for you to see some of the other things that we do, because it could be that your professional service area supports some of these activities, and then would obviously be some overlap there. There are various ways that you can interact with us and keep up with what we're doing. So we've got a website there, matarikinetwork.org, which hopefully some of you will have already seen. Our Instagram account is relatively new, so there's not a whole lot of content there at the moment, but if you give us a follow, hopefully that will be built up upon over the next few months. Our LinkedIn page is quite well established, and we do try and advertise all of our opportunities on there. Some of you may have seen this session advertised on there. We also have a newsletter which comes out via email 3 times a year, and that's a really good summary of everything that we've been up to in that last period. So again, if you want to sign up to that when the slides come out, this is an interactive link that you can click on to sign up for the newsletter. And then every 2 years we produce quite a concise report for the board and also for public consumption, which again details activities that we've been doing over the last couple of years. And our latest report was published towards the end of last year, in line with UN Day. So that was quite timely in October. And again, this is an interactive link if you want to click on that and get more of a taste of what we have been doing the last couple of years. So that was a very whistle-stop tour of the network. Hope it wasn't sort of too much information all in one short period. If you're interested in finding out more, obviously you can get in touch with us after the session, but I just wanted to set the scene a little bit. I'm now going to hand over to Denise, who's going to tell you a little bit more about the Matariki Engagement Grant specifically, and I'm sure that's a bit you've all been waiting for. So without further ado, I'll pass on to you. Thanks, Denise.
Thanks, Lucy. So let's have a look at the Matariki Engagement Grant, otherwise known as MEG. So we'll just move on to the next slide.
Sorry, it's doing its thing of lagging again. There we go. Sorry about that.
Here we go. So a little bit about the origins of the grant and the idea behind it. So a few years back, we started the Matariki Leadership Programme, now known as the Matariki Global Leadership Programme, which has actually been running since 2021. And this program was really intended to provide an opportunity for leadership development and also collaboration in line with the principles of the Matariki network with very senior professional staff leaders and managers from our respective institutions. There was a recognition that whilst there had been a great deal of opportunity in this space for our academic colleagues, there was a perceived gap in the professional services space. And this was an opportunity to really provide opportunity for collaboration within the network for professional services colleagues to actually come together and share leadership experiences, challenges, and also professional development. Through that program, we realized that this was a really rich opportunity and potential for professional services colleagues to actually work together on collaborative projects that would practically demonstrate the values of the Matariki network, such as being a group of critical friends and trusted partners who support each other to enhance quality in all areas of institutional activity right across the network, and a real opportunity for multilateral cooperation for those of us that work within universities, recognising the work that we do in the research and support of staff and student space. So we'll just move on to the next slide, please, Lucy, if everything works well. In terms of the grant this year, we would welcome projects that demonstrate aspects of the Matariki Network's 5 guiding principles and core values. You will receive a copy of the slides, so you'll be able to look through these principles in detail at your own time. But just to give you a bit of a heads up today, the topics that we're looking at are commitment to transnational dialogue and actually creating an opportunity to discuss similar issues. Something that we've really found through the leadership program is that we all share very similar opportunities and challenges in our respective institutions, regardless of where we are placed in the globe. So a real opportunity to extend that dialogue and commitment to work together. Recognizing the principles of academic freedom and autonomy and freedom of expression, and respect for diversity, inclusion. Offering that critical friendship. Often when we're working in roles in the leadership space in our respective institutions, sometimes colleagues will find that they're working in an area where potentially there aren't many other colleagues within their institution who are working on similar projects or have similar topics. So this really offers an opportunity to actually collaborate with peers across the globe on topics that are of shared interest to you all. And of course, that purposeful collaboration for improving lives. And we always remain grounded in why we exist as a network and within our respective institutions, which is to have positive impact, social purpose, and to make a real difference within our respective communities. We felt it would be really helpful, recognizing that the grant is relatively new, to provide you, our colleagues, with some ideas of priority areas that we felt could be really relevant for 2026. These priority areas have come from discussions with the leadership executive and are really intended to provide broad guidelines of topics that could well be relevant for 2026. Again, you'll be sent a copy of the slides so you can look at these in more detail afterwards. But just as a high level heading, we have sustainability, diversity and inclusion, student experience, alumni engagement, university global strategy, health and well-being, and health and safety. We've shared in the pack examples of existing Matariki collaborations that are happening within the grant, and we're going to talk in more detail about the two that are in bold that have been undertaken in collaboration with Otago, Queen's and Durham, and also with Durham and University of Western Cape. And we're very pleased to say that we have colleagues from both of those collaborations with us today on the call. And in a few minutes, we're going to talk to them in more detail and share experiences of the grant.
Thank you, Denise. So on to the million-dollar question then, what's in it for me? Because I know that it's obviously very important to address that. It's sometimes the elephant in the room. So, I thought we would just take it by the horns and address it. So clearly everybody's very busy with their regular jobs, and you're maybe sitting here questioning whether or why you ought to take on yet another extra on top of everything else that you already have to do. I guess the point that we want to make here is that we don't see a good project as being an additional extra thing that you have to take on that's going to be really onerous and time consuming on top of everything else. Rather, we think that if you come up with an idea that's relevant to what you do, and or the processes that you use or whatever, it should work with you and it should be embedded into what you're already doing, rather than being something that's an extra task to take on. Clearly there will be an element of additional work in terms of applying for the grant and maybe the initial getting to know your partners and setting up various ways of working and things, but once things get going, we're confident that it really should be something that actually works for you, and not just only you, but perhaps also your wider teams and in your division. And then potentially also, that can also be rolled out as the project really takes shape. Broaden your professional network. Obviously, I don't need to tell you that that's usually a very good thing. And we think that this is quite a unique opportunity in that you can do this on an international level. So it's not just being able to work with peers, perhaps at another institution in your local region or even nationally. It's taking it that one step further and giving you the opportunity to get different perspectives from all around the globe potentially. And you'll probably find that there are a lot of differences but also similarities in challenges that you face and the way that you can overcome them. And sometimes it's really sort of beneficial and worthwhile to be able to put on that different pair of glasses and see it from a different perspective, so to speak. So we just thought it was worth mentioning because we do get asked quite a lot, not just for this opportunity but everything within the network of, oh well, yes, I'm happy to do that, but what's the benefit, or what could I get out of that? Which it could on the surface seem like a little bit of a selfish question, but actually no, it's completely valid and relevant. And I think there are lots of benefits, and we've only listed 3 here, but I'm sure you can think of plenty more. So on to a little bit more of a closer look at the application. Actually, if you want to come to apply for a project, the application is done via an online form, which we like to think is reasonably short and straightforward compared to some grant application forms that you may have come across in your time. You'll be asked to provide obviously all of the normal things, sort of, your name, contact details, institution, role, partners, that kind of thing, but that's all very simple and straightforward. You'll then be asked to provide an overview of the project, your ideas, as well as taking us through the proposed activities within the project, the timeline for those activities, and the budget that you're going to require. This is a grant that's a maximum of £5,000, so it's not heaps of money, but the idea is that it's enough to instigate some kind of collaboration which could then lead to further things. So those are kind of the main things that you'll be asked about, and also the value that your project will bring, not just to your local, your own work and your local team's work, but any potential impact for wider, any potential for wider impact and benefit within the institutions that are in the project, but also potentially also wider into the rest of the network. As you move through the project application, you'll see that we do offer some guidance in terms of word count for most of the sections, which hopefully is helpful, because I know from personal experience, sometimes when you're faced with a question on an application form and you have absolutely no idea of the level of detail that they're looking for, it can be very overwhelming and quite difficult to know what to include and leave out. So we hope that the guidance that we've supplied will be helpful in that regard. And we've also extracted all of the questions from the form into a PDF, again, so that you can see all of the questions in advance of actually filling it in online, because I know it can be quite frustrating and difficult to flip backwards and forwards between different sections of the form, particularly if, as in this case, you're working with at least one other collaboration partner, and probably, let's face it, not in real time. If there's a time difference and things, you might be doing a lot of it bouncing emails backwards and forwards. So we thought that would be helpful for you to be able to see all of the questions up front in advance for your planning purposes. And that can be accessed via the grant information page on our website, or if you are struggling to find that, you can just drop us a line and we're happy to send that directly to your inbox, so that you can see in advance of actually starting the online application. Some of you might be sitting here with a really good idea for a project, but absolutely no idea who you could work with on it, and that's completely normal. It's something that we've recognised since we started working on this grant. So we've come up with what we hope is at least a semi-solution. We might have some time at the end of this session for anybody with a burning project idea to kind of pitch it and see if there's anybody in the virtual room who might be interested. But we're also offering a kind of matchmaking service, for want of a better word, where colleagues can complete quite a simple, straightforward online form, and then we can try and work behind the scenes with colleagues across the network to identify some potential collaborators. The onus will be put back on the potential applicants, so you guys, to then follow these leads and see if there's any traction with potential partners in other institutions. So obviously there's no guarantee. We're not coming to you and saying this person is definitely interested in applying, because we simply don't have the bandwidth to contact all potential leads to work that out. But we're more than happy to try and help you make those connections, because we appreciate it can be very difficult. If you've been part of the Global Leadership Programme that Denise mentioned, there's a chance that you might have an email address of somebody lurking in your inbox that was working in a similar kind of area to yourself, but more than likely you won't really know that, and then just stabbing in the dark via Google and different university websites can be quite frustrating. So as I say, there's no guarantees, but we're happy to try and help identify collaborators. The form, again, the link is on the presentation pack here that will be shared. We ask that people submit their forms by no later than the 23rd of March. So it's just under 3 weeks away now. So there's still a little bit of time for you to put an idea together and submit that if that's what you would like to do. And then in the couple of weeks following that deadline, that's when we're aiming to kind of put the contact lists together and reach back out to you with that information, which then should hopefully give you sufficient time to contact those people and then potentially go forth with an application in time for the deadline at the end of May. So yeah, just to draw your attention to that, if you're interested in getting some assistance with collaborators, 23rd of March is the date to keep in mind. This is a list of your main points of contact for each of the Matariki institutions. So I mentioned at the start that Sarah and I, although we're based at Durham University, we act as equally as we can on behalf of the entire network, but each of the 6 members has its own Matariki coordinator, and they're the kind of go-to person for any inquiries about specific initiatives and things. If it's quite a general question about the engagement grant, or indeed anything else Matariki related, then Sarah and I are always happy to receive messages, and we'll do our best to help. But if it's something quite specific to your location or your own institution, then I suggest that these are your go-to people in the first instance at least, and then hopefully they can signpost you further if required. So just kind of to go over the timeline and sort of the summary of the grant. So it's up to £5,000 per award for a 12-month project. So it's just a year. I think some of our other opportunities have been up to 24 months, but we thought, especially for the first couple of rounds, we'll go with 12 months and see where that takes us. It says maximum one per institution there. Just to clarify, that doesn't mean that each institution can only be involved in one project. It just means that we only really want each institution to lead on one project, because we only have an overall project budget of £20,000. So that's roughly 4 grants. And obviously, with there being 6 partners, we're trying to spread the grants as evenly as possible. So it's not that only one project per institution, but it's just one project lead, is the guidance that we've got. At least 2 partner institutions collaborating. So it would be great to see more, if possible, but appreciate that it can be tricky to get those connections, especially in the early days. So bilateral is perfectly acceptable. The application's actually opened yesterday. So if you've got your collaborators and your idea, then you're good to go. You can already access the form and get going on that. Obviously, the information session is happening here and now. And we just mentioned the project. If you're looking for collaborators, then the deadline to submit the application for that is the 23rd of March, so a few weeks away. And then the actual applications close on the 22nd of May. So we've purposefully tried to create quite a long lead time and application window, because when we first tried with a pilot a couple of years ago, we ended up with quite a short application window, and that really went against us, I think, and colleagues felt that there wasn't enough time to put together a quality application. So we obviously announced this opportunity in January, and the deadline's not till the end of May. So hopefully that's plenty of time for you to put something together without being too much of a rush. The way that this is assessed, we have kind of a 2-tier assessment process. So in the first instance, all institutions in the network who receive an application where somebody from their institution is the lead will assess those applications first on an internal basis to make sure that they're eligible, that colleagues are from like the department they say that they're from and all that kind of thing. And then if they think it's worthy of closer inspection by the central panel, then it will be proposed to the central panel, which we're hoping will happen in mid-June. And that will be a representative from each of the 6 institutions, from professional services. And so they'll have obviously hopefully relevant experience in a variety of different areas, and they will help us to decide who ought to receive the grants. So then we hope to announce the results quite shortly thereafter, with the earliest project start date being August 2026, but it can start anywhere between August and December, so by the end of this calendar year. And then obviously with it being a 12-month project, by the end of next calendar year, we're hoping that you will have everything all wrapped up, and there'll be a short completion report to complete at the end of that, just to say how everything's gone, any kind of deviations from your original project plan, and any plans for follow-up work, which we would love to see. There's a couple of links there at the bottom of the list, and again, you can access these once the slides come out. Take you straight to the information page, which also has the link to the application. And again, I mentioned previously about the PDF of the questions, and that's the final link there at the bottom of that list. So hopefully that's a good kind of summary of the grant. I'm going to pass you back over to Denise now, who's going to invite a couple of last year's successful applicants to say a little bit more about their projects, which hopefully will be really interesting for you, and also give you the opportunity to ask questions of people who've been through the process, and can potentially give you a little bit of insight into their experiences. So thank you, Denise.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lucy. So a very warm welcome to Marty Gagnon and Mateti Madiba, who are on the call today. I'm going to ask Marty and Mateti to introduce themselves to the group, and then we're going to take time to look at each of the projects that they are collaborating on. So Marty, could I ask you to introduce yourself to the group, please?
Kia ora koutou. My name is Marty Gagnon. I'm the Director of the Research and Enterprise Office at the University of Otago.
Fantastic. And Mateti, a very warm welcome to you. I'm not quite sure what the time is with you today, but if you could introduce yourself to the group, that would be lovely.
Good evening. That's the time here. It's evening. I am Matiti Madiba. I am Deputy Vice Chancellor, Student Development and Support at the University of the Western Cape. And I am part of the Indigenous Leads for the Matariki network of universities. Thank you.
Thank you, Matiti. Lovely to meet you, and I hope that it's not too late with you. So let's move on and have a look at the projects that you are each involved with. The first one that we're going to look at is around international collaboration for research office excellence. And this is a collaboration between 3 institutions. And this morning we have Marty Gagnon from Otago to share a little bit about the project. Marty, could you give us a little bit of an overview of what's involved with the project?
Of course. So you all being in a university environment where research is done, you'd be aware that research costs money. So because of that, we have small armies within our universities of research funding managers and administrators, or RMAs as we call them commonly across the world. Most of the research funding that we get is domestic, so we deal with our government funders mostly, and we develop tools and best practices based on those funders. But as research evolves and becomes more complex, we need to partner. So research is done more globally now, and there's quite a few opportunities for participation in global funds. Horizon Europe would be one of them. So because of that, we tend to interact more between research offices across different countries. And we note that we all have different ways of working because we have different funders, we have different policies, we have different cultures, and we serve different populations. So even though our job is relatively similar across the world, we're all very siloed and we work in different ways. But now we need to interact more with each other. So we've noted that there are a few programs for mentorship and staff exchanges around the world for research managers and administrators. But there's never been really a review of how effective they are, what's the benefit from them, what could be improved, and so on. So we decided to do a scoping review of the literature that's out there, so either peer-reviewed or gray literature, to see what was offered, if there was any conclusions about how well they work, how they can be improved, what gaps might there be that could be filled by some sort of innovation in the training and exchanges that the different research offices could create. And so we're doing that review right now, and our plan is to present our results at the European Association of Research Managers and Administrators in early May in the Netherlands. So that's roughly what the project is about. It's well underway. We are in the process of doing the scoping review. It's mostly done by sorry, one of my staff who's actually based in Belfast in Northern Ireland, and Carol Heatley, who's at Durham, and Karen Samis, who's at Queen's, is doing the review of the review, and I'm the lucky one who'll be on stage presenting in May. And
Fantastic. Thank
how
you.
this
Thank
came
you,
about.
Marty.
Oh, sorry,
Yes.
Lindsay, go ahead.
Yes.
Sorry,
That's great.
Denise.
How did it come about?
I came about through one of the leadership program sessions from the Matariki network. I was in a breakout room with Karen, who I didn't know from Queens, and we started chatting about our challenges with Horizon Europe as a major fund, because both New Zealand and Canada came on board roughly at the same time as associate members and were eligible for Horizon funding. But we didn't really know how to deal with that new funder because it's very complex, very bureaucratic, and we thought we could use some help from our European partners. And then we we kept talking about it, and it's not only Horizon Europe, it's a lot of global funds, a lot of domestic funds that allow international collaborations that we could improve our relationships on. So we made the project a bit bigger, and yeah, we jumped on the opportunity to have a Matariki engagement grant to do this work, because normally we wouldn't have time or resources to invest into that.
Fantastic. Thank you, Marty. We're going to move on now and look at another project that's happening, and then we'll come together and we'll share some tips with you in terms of tips that could be helpful for you if you're thinking about applying in 2020, 2026. Again, Matiti, warm welcome this morning. It would be very interesting to hear a little bit about your project and how it came together.
Thank you. Our project, the title is Co-Creating an Ethical Leadership Program Rooted in Matariki Global Citizenship, a trans-university collaboration. And this is between the University of Durham and UWC. Before I tell you much about the project, I want to say the main partner at Durham is Chantel Cummings, and she is a senior manager in a student leadership section and department at the university, and she is working with me as a lead at University of the Western Cape, and I am involved in student development and support. This project is about students, and it is about the student experience, but more specifically, it focuses on developing leadership capacities of our students within a global network. The project proposes a values-driven exploratory partnership between the two universities, and the aim is to strengthen student leadership development. Together, we aim to co-create a flexible virtual leadership program that can serve or that can be used or accessed across the Matariki network. Though we are starting, with the two universities, the ambition is that once we have a program, we can share it across the network, and of course, it can be further refined to serve that bigger purpose. The focus is not only to design a robust leadership program, but also to learn how to implement this type of a program across diverse contexts. The project and its ethos is anchored in the Matariki guiding principles. The initiative will foster cross-cultural dialogue for our students, and we are going to be using a lot of reflection on leadership challenges for our students and in engagement with them. The project will create a structured, student-led and staff-supported spaces where ethical leadership can be explored openly and respectfully. For sure, you'll agree that where we are, across the globe, there is such a need for leadership development. And the question is, how are our universities contributing towards the quality of leadership that we need for these times and into the future? And this is the reason why we are working with our students to be able to build these virtual programs that can be used across a number of universities. We are focusing on diversity, and of course, indigenization will also be central to the design, and will be taking our student leaders into conversations on diversity and indigenization. We will also be working together to strengthen institutional engagement, to promote civic and community-informed learning. So the student leaders will be participating. One of the envisaged activity together will be to let them design a civic and community engaged project that they will go and implement and come and report back as part of their growth and their leadership development. We hope to be able to create student think tanks on a number of themes that will be harvested in the early conversations in the program, and to make sure that we end up with a student-led project and projects that students are going to apply in the real world, in their communities. We are looking at developing a core curriculum of student leadership, and into this program, we're also building a 360 evaluation cycle, so that by the time that we are done, we should be able to talk about evaluation within the pilot cycle. How is it going so far? We are doing well, even though we've had a delay because my partner in Durham had a personal challenge, a loss of a loved one, and through agreement, we're able to push the timelines a little bit backward. But now we are in a phase where we are now facilitating visits and observations for leadership development, as we are doing it currently across the 2 universities. And out of that, we will then be bringing our student leaders together into the design of this virtual engagement that we will end up writing about. We are also hoping to build in scholarship into the process, and of course that we'll have to follow, ethical clearance and all of that, so that it's not just about the program and the piloting, but it is also about the lessons that we are going to be learning, and we are trying to go through the whole pilot in ways that are supported by scholarship. If you have to ask for any tips, I don't know if I'm jumping the gun.
We'd love some tips, Matiti, we'd love some.
Yes, I would say, those who are thinking of applying for this grant, the best that you can do is to make sure that you understand the Matariki network of universities vision very well, the principles and values that are built into the network, so that when you envisage any project, you are already aligned. And of course, it is also about thinking globally and thinking about, SDGs, those global goals. And besides that, it helps that when you think of a project, it should already be aligned with a need that you have already identified, an authentic need, not something artificial that you're thinking of because maybe the call is out. So looking into an area that you've been working on and where you have that vision to grow the learnings makes it easier. And if you ask about how to find partners within the network, I would say, there are a number of matchmaking activities. If you work with the Matariki Network office closely with Lucy and the colleagues, you'll be surprised how much they can set you up on speed dating. And in no time, you'll end up thinking, oh, I found, my match, and it's like a match made in heaven. But as you participate in the Matariki Network activities, you get exposed to colleagues, and you get to talk about what you are doing and what you're hoping to achieve, and it becomes very easy then to identify your partners. And once you have found a partner and you are looking into developing a project to apply a grant for, you need to work together to co-write and to co-plan and to watch your timelines. And believe in no time, it will be the closing date. So the sooner you start, the better. Thank you.
Thank you, Matiti. So heartwarming and really great to hear. Marty, are there any tips that you would like to share with the group this morning or this evening?
Yeah, I think what's important is to really get that connection with your other partners, potential partners, really clear from the get-go, so that the benefits are clear for everyone. Otherwise, it becomes a a one-legged chair, and it might fall over. So it really needs to be collaborative, genuine, and otherwise, there's going to be one partner doing all the work with the other ones, just riding the coattails. So we were really fortunate in that all three partners had the same vision, the same goals, we saw the same benefits in doing this work, and it's all spread really evenly. Because obviously this is done, on our own time. We don't really have the resources of the blocks in our calendar to dedicate a lot of time to this. So people need to be, contributing equally, and also be really passionate about the project. So really seeing the advantages of advancing the work in that field, and seeing that the benefits can be equally applied to not only the ones that are collaborating, but the Matariki network as a whole later on, once the project is completed. So I think that's key to success.
Matiti and Marty, thank you very much for taking time to share your insights with colleagues today. It's been incredibly insightful. We are going to move, we've got a couple of minutes for questions and answers. If you are able to stay on the call, that would be wonderful. Alternatively, if there's somewhere that you need to go, we very much respect that as well. But thank you very much on behalf of the group for sharing your insights with us today. We do have a couple of minutes if anybody would like to make any comment or ask any question, perhaps in chat. And I'd invite Sarah to maybe keep an eye on chat for us if there's anything that's coming in there. Alternatively, you're very welcome to reach out individually if that would be a preference. But if there are any questions, have any questions come through in the chat, Sarah or Lucy?
No, nothing in there at the moment. It could be that people need a bit of time to digest the information they've been given, and then, as Denise said, please feel free to come back to us. And if it's a specific question for either Martin or Matete, then we're happy to forward that on and hope that they will be good enough to respond, which I'm sure they will. So yeah, if you don't have anything here and now, then it's totally fine to contact us at a later date. And also anybody who's watching this as a recording, if you have any questions, please feel free to get in touch and we'll do our best to help.
Thank you very much, Lucy. So shall we close there for today? Yeah, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, everybody, for joining, and thank you again to Martin and Matete for your time, and also to Denise and Sarah and Claire, who I think just had to jump off there, for joining as well and giving up your time at not always the best time of day for these international calls, but I really appreciate it. So thank you, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day or your evening, and hopefully speak to some of you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.